What's your name?
My name is Tony Pazensky.
What's your nickname?
In the Jiu Jitsu community, my nickname is Little Tony.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a small town called Trevose, suburb.
Tell us your lineage, rank.
At this time, I'm a third degree black belt, originally promoted to black belt in Jiu Jitsu from Professor Rodrigo Monderos of the Carlson Gracie team, and he's the co-founder of the BJJ Revolution team with Julio Folca Fernandez. And my black belt is from Rodrigo, so I always feel like if I have academy or not, I'm always representing the BJJ Revolution team. Yes, I've always wanted to do jiu-jitsu with Rickson, and he's someone that made me really want to get involved in jiu-jitsu. Of course, seeing his brother Royce in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, it got my attention and made me want to learn jiu-jitsu, but when you see Rickson in the Old Valley Tudos and everything what he was up to, Rickson makes you want to learn everything about jiu-jitsu, at least motivated me to do that. And I was never able to train with him because he had his own association, which was outside of my sphere. I was always connected with the Elio Gracie, Horion, Hoist Gracie, Kaiki, Helson Gracie, all that association or those associations. So I was never involved with Hoyler and Holker or Rickson. And time would go on. About 16 or 17 years into the training jiu-jitsu from Brazil, I had the opportunity to take one seminar with Rickson. Was at the Torrance Academy, and at the time I was living in Redondo, so it was very close. The seminar sold out. I was lucky enough to get a pass to get in, pay my fee, and at that time Rickson is already now a coral belt, and he was teaching jiu-jitsu like amazing. All the black belts, we didn't know what he was talking about, like simple moves. He was talking about invisible force and connection and just totally different than all of his brothers I had ever experienced. And at any instructor, so it was like you had the reputation of Rickson as the family champion, his charisma that he has as a samurai, the type of person he is. Then you get to feel his technique, which is different than everybody else's, and then he has these theories that he can express it to people, and everyone's like, this is the coolest thing.
Oh, 6 foot or more? So, I was coming here, I was just lining up like typically, and then I even got in here. I can't move a thing. My next strategy was I came in here, I tried to stand up and set my foot down the middle and sit through, and I can't. His legs are so freaking strong, I can't open them.
Do the second one first. Is that hands in the arm stance, you stand up?
And this is what I was trying to do. Get down. No. Okay, help me. Help me.
You stand up here. You need to walk this way to get your foot. Your toes can't be like this. They have to be like this. Heel to the mat. When you have to heel the mat, you have to put his coccyx bone right there. Right in this spot. And they're there. If you're like this, he moves a little bit. Foot out. Good. Now press his hips. Don't go to the ground. Keep standing and now walk your ass right there.
And right there. And like push?
Yes. Just keep him right there. Now it's like, man, he feels it.
Okay, thank you. That's better.
My weight's coming down. Like my pressure starts back here. The cross-side, I'm like, back around the head. Anytime you get this too much, this is a guy with a simple escape. You can lose everything. He has the right place on the chest, stand up, tackle here. The arms are going to get grabbed or redirected, so now you got to deflect.
I'd rather be in positions that they're in every day and make them say, wow, what was I thinking? I love this. Now I can actually make this move work for me. The execution just went up. The understanding of the position went deeper versus going this way with more and more trending positions like X guard, spider guard, deep half guard, half X. That goes like this, man. It's going to go on and on and on and on. But when you look at the core moves, and it's like, how deep do you go this way?
I really don't have any leverage because my game plan is terrible for sure.
I'm very happy to see the progress of those students because they question, how am I doing? And it's like, you don't know how proud it is to start someone in jiu-jitsu and then to see them stick with it and then watch them helping other people, not taking advantage of people, but taking their money and just being a crook or like a bad person. But they're honestly out there trying to improve themselves. I know how hard it is to be involved in jiu-jitsu, have a job, or maybe this is something that they're doing full time, commit to it, and then still have the time to help others, but then help to develop themselves, towards their goals of the higher ranks. And then you feel it, and you're like, man, it's really good. It's good to train with you, and the guys like Will and Blackshire. I was just happy to roll with them. And of course, it was just fun to, do my best to display the jiu-jitsu that I'm working on now, and then to have them say things very nice and respectful of, you feel different. Versus, man, you passed my guard so fast, or you did. It's when they say it and you feel different, it's because I'm doing moves that they already know. I'm older than those guys. I might look young or whatever, but I'm 37 years old with injuries of jiu-jitsu, and you don't move as fast as when you were in your 30s, like 30, or when I was 25, or when I was 18. The other day, the guy said, I saw a video you hit a flying armbar. And I said, bro, I must have been 25 when that happened. I haven't hit a flying armbar since that video, probably. And it's just the example of how much jiu-jitsu that you're going to learn and forget, because you're going to forget it. Or how much jiu-jitsu you're going to learn, and over time, you're not going to be able to use anymore because your body can't make it work anymore. So that's a very interesting situation. The techniques that are in essence based on your physical attributes. You can't hit them like that forever. So when they said you feel different, it's a good thing, because I'm trying my best to give them an example to follow. Not that they got tapped out or they couldn't make me tap out because I defended it. It was like I want them to feel, a very, the black belt example, whatever that means. but it was I want them to feel the principles of jiu-jitsu in how I express it for me, because I'm different than other people, and I want them to have that experience when I leave, like after the lesson or the time that I'm here with them. Not, hey man, that was really cool 50-50 guard. It's not about the positions. It's not even about the technique. It's how the techniques, what's behind them. What do they feel like? How man, the guy made me tap. I always get out of this position. The guy made me sweep. I can stop the sweep from everybody in the room. And we know as jiu-jitsu guys when we're getting beat by things that are so fundamental. Like, every time when you're on the top mount and you get upad. And it's like, what? I just got upad? I haven't been upad since I was a blue belt or a white belt. This guy just hit me with a scissor sweep. It's like you're having it done to you and you're like, oh my god, it's so simple. Why did that happen to me? So there's a certain level of appreciation when you get beat by something that's so fundamental. It feels different.
It was great rolling with Tony again. Last time I think we trained 2008, and his game is totally different than from what I remember as being a white belt.
I didn't even hear what you said.
You kind of suck when you're watching.
The guys I fought in Naga were like this. There's levels to it.
Meeting Rickson as a professor of jiu-jitsu, becoming his student in essence, because we had to work on the federation curriculum, and I got to put that's my specialty is my master's degree is in curriculum instruction, administration, with working with. I just get so excited about how things go together and how we can make this understandable for all these people. And aside from the many tasks I was doing at the federation, I did get this time with Rickson at his office in the car, just talking about jiu-jitsu, and then over time we became better friends. And then as I was putting the curriculum together with him and anybody else that was in the in the room at the time, it was an opportunity for me to feel his jiu-jitsu and really get to. And it's every day during the week at 10 o'clock, he'd give me a call. How's everything going? What'd you think about yesterday? Let's do it again. Let's do it Thursday. So I'll never be able to pay him with the amount of private lessons that he gave me over, since I met him to now. And then then it was like, come to the academy at Crohn's School, and I want to see you train now. So I was like, oh my God, now he's like helping me out with, see how I execute all this stuff with other students, brown belts, black belts, and it was very challenging. But he's, said, Tony, you have a passion for this. So I'm very, very honored, and I feel like a very unique situation to want to train with someone so long for so many years, and then have the opportunity. Like I watch people come to the federation, they change their whole life schedule just to have one lesson with him, and they get the picture, they get so excited. I'd be there holding the camera, and then they email me the next day and thank you so much, and that was so cool, and they remember that whole thing, and then they remember 2 or 3 techniques, and it was like I got to go and pick Hicks's brain on curriculum for over a year period, and then have him start to show the moves and the feel. And people, if you've never trained with Rickson, you have to feel it, you have to experience it. It's a totally different deal compared to anybody else, and it's very difficult to talk about when you start talking about connection and invisible force, and how he can apply and showcase the principles of jiu-jitsu. And that's very different than, here's the technique, here's how you do it, ABC, or going to a seminar and showing the latest trends of techniques. Like, here's how you do this new position. And Rickson just gets really, really, really deep on the execution of fundamental things and the core objectives and what you're trying to really fight for. So then it becomes like strategy and almost like a tactical thing. But along the way, you have someone that's noted for being the highest expression in what we do in jiu-jitsu from Brazil, the family champion from all this time, and then he can get out there still at his age right now and execute the principles with technique. It's amazing. And when you can do that, anybody can learn jiu-jitsu when you focus on principles versus physicality. So that all being said, you still have to absorb it, and then you have to apply it, because there's a lot of times where a instructor's techniques will only work for them, and it's difficult for a student to kind of make that transition, so they're making the moves work. But and there is a challenge there because I have certain techniques that Rickson taught me personally. I was like, man, I can't get this. It took me 2 years to figure out his cross side escape from the bottom, how he does it. I was always missing a piece. Crone came up to me one lesson. He's like, let me save you a little headache, but he said, I want to save you some nightmares because it was difficult for him. And he showed me a couple things, but I was like, that's cool, but that's just adding new variation. And I had been shown it at this seminar. I was shown it at this seminar in Japan. I was showing it at his house here at the Federation. He would say, Tony, what do you want to learn today? I said, I want to work from the bottom. We do the curriculum, and he said, Tony, what do you want to learn? And I would say, I want to learn this. So we kept going and going and going. I started getting more details about the cross side. And then one day, at a group lesson where there's all these different people, Rickson has to teach to so many different people. He's got black belts, purple belts, white belts, and it's very difficult to teach that way. And there's so many people, so he's walking around and he saw me and he just said, hey, open up your shoulder, like open your arm up. That was it. It was the piece that I wasn't doing, and he just kind of corrected it and moved along really fast. And at that point, I'm like, man, this is I got it. And there was another position, like his back take was very, very difficult for me to do, and I had to keep asking him how to do it over and over again. But when other things, they were very easy because I'm already a black belt, and that was how it was. It was like if I did it well, he'd say, good job, you're a black belt, you should be able to do it, he'd smile. But if I didn't do it, he would, the way he teaches, it's so unique, where he finds what you need to learn versus what you want to learn or what he wants to show you. And when you can find someone that can give you what you need, it really fills in the holes, the gaps. And when you do jiu-jitsu for 20 years, there's not a lot of people that can do that. You can have a hard training session and train really hard with someone and have a good roll, and maybe you get tapped out, maybe you'll tap them out. But there's no one like saying like, Tony, you're missing this, and here I'll show you why you're doing it. And in the answering, it's the problem solving through the use of principles. It's very, very cool. And even when you have those lessons, sometimes people in this whole world, they have it one time in their life. Like these guys that would come into the Federation and have a private with Rickson, and I always had the really, really unique situation to have this dream and be like-minded with Rickson and Carlos, and have that time to just as a student of jiu-jitsu just be the best that there's ever been. And he really plays. He's very humble about, like, when people say, man, you're the best teacher I've ever had, and all this stuff, and he says, here's some people that he respects, and he would start naming names, and it's like, yeah, you can say that, but when we walk away, you're the best. I've worked with those guys, and they were good to a certain point because of their charisma, because of their presentation, but on the mat, this feels totally different than that. So that's why you get the strike that you're number one as a professor. Also, not as just the man, as a fighter, or as a professor of jiu-jitsu. As a professor, I feel he's number one. This morning we're on our way to a seminar at Combative Martial Arts Institute in Easton, Pennsylvania. And this seminar is part of the tour, the 20th anniversary one that I'm doing across the country. I'm going to try to do one abroad when we get to November. But my friends here are the guys I met at Maxercise, John and Jim Terry, so I've known them for 20 years. And we used to, on the Magical Mystery Tour of Jiu-Jitsu, going from, Philadelphia to Ohio or Connecticut, I was always in the car with these guys. So good trips, good friends.
One thing, yeah, Wednesday we go to the kids, we can mess around with them. Some select tape. Did you jerky or no? Oh, you did, yeah.
For coming on short notice. And today, I've been doing this little tour across the country. I'm calling this my 20th anniversary tour, Jiu Jitsu seminar tour. And my objective is to inspire you with Jiu Jitsu today. And that'll come across. Today, we're going to look at and highlight a better, profound understanding of the principles of Jiu Jitsu. Have some fun, and of course, show you techniques that you should already know, or if you're learning for the first time, you're learning in a better way. And the teaching methodology that comes across is I'm not trying to challenge you. I'm not saying like, get out of it, but I'm just trying to activate your background knowledge. It's a good way to assess you. And ultimately today, there's no such thing as a bad student, only good and bad professors or teachers. So I think I'm pretty good, and all of you are going to get an A, I guarantee it. So at any time, if you have a question about technique, we're all here to help. So let's bow in. Sorry. Very good. Let's create a big circle. These in a certain way. Yeah, I didn't know about that until I started to get into the art. Turn your knee down. And then 20 years later, I was with Hickson in his office at home, and he started to warm up like this. And I said, why did I do all these moves? I learned this a long time ago. So this will be part of our warm up. Both knees. Stretch. Start bringing one hand off. One foot. The idea is to try to find it in the middle.
It's up to you. But we're going to use the hip throw in understanding of better leverage. I kind of played a little bit of lip service to connection. That we could be here all day just learning how to have a better clinch, learning how to do closing the distance, learning how to stay glued to the guy. But the hip throw is a move right now. It's like a move. Go ahead. Yes, very good. Very nice. Try it again. So there's going to be a moment that we all, as black belts in Jiu Jitsu, have been with the Gracie family for a long time, right? And other Brazilians, when you step across, go ahead. Right, go ahead. At this moment, go ahead. We all feel off balance a little bit. We never question it. What I'm trying to do at that particular moment is I'm trying to have better leverage.
Yeah.
That's it. In Portuguese, mesclar influenza. Agora. So check your.
The Terry brothers in Easton, they was the two guys that are lifetime martial artists. Before they had even started Jiu-Jitsu 20 years ago, they had already been practicing karate in the old days. So it was learning karate in the late 60s, 70s, even through the 80s. Not the late 60s, but in the 70s and 80s when it was before Karate Kid, the old school, which was the belts in karate. They weren't 3 years straight to black belt. It was 10 plus years. It held a lot of weight, just like Jiu-Jitsu or Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, Gracie family Jiu-Jitsu, Jiu-Jitsu from Brazil, is still, sometimes people look at it like the belt, the value is going down with each generation. It's like getting easier and easier to get belts, or the period of time gets shortened. It wasn't just the catch-all 10-year period. So these guys came from that generation, and it was always great to talk and see them, because the Terry brothers would travel from Dingman's Ferry, which is like a 3-hour drive one way just to get to Center City, Philadelphia. Train all day and like a Saturday, have dinner, and then cruise back and typically go to work or something like that. So you respect people that travel. My flight time to the city was 45 minutes this way, 45 minutes back, and if you missed the train, so it was a commitment for a teenager. But these guys are driving 3 hours plus just to get to train jiu-jitsu. So I've always respected that, and they're good guys to meet when I was younger, mentors to look up to, and just always, if we did a trip to Ohio to go see, or Connecticut, I'd be in the car with John or Jim, and we'd talk about martial arts and life, and I didn't know much like where I was heading with after high school. I had my dreams, but I was a snot-nosed teenage kid with jiu-jitsu, so these were guys that really helped set my head on straight, and I always appreciated that. To see them now as black belts, and to see their academy with their partner and having it grow and being successful, because I remember when it opened up, they were call me, email me, trying to get some any bits of advice I could give them in terms of their business model, how they're running their school, like consulting, and to see them now teaching the other students, and the students looking up to them, and it's always a lot of fun. If your fingers get caught, tap with your feet. Okay. 3, 2. If I go up and resist, we're going to get in a struggle. We're strong. 2.5. All right, ready? Go. My goal today, my objective was to inspire you. I hope that happened. With techniques that if you've never saw them before, I promise you that I wish I would have known them. I wish I would have known certain techniques 10 years ago, the ones I know now, so I could protect my neck. Like I wish I would have known that. I would have hurt my neck like 10 years ago. I would have hurt my foot. I would have tapped more people. So this type of thinking and playing in principles, not the physicality. That's your path. So I hope that you endorse it. Okay. Thank you very much for coming, fellas.
So we're here now at the 7th and Christian in South Philly, and it's a famous for us, the John's Water Ice. And today is good training, and it kind of reminds me of when we were at Exercise 707 Chestnut Street. We would train on the Saturdays in the summer, and then we'd walk from Chestnut Street to 7th and Christian. Jarrett Wiener and I, and some of the people from the team. I always have like good stories. We talk about training and talk about the next competition, things like this, and other things like because South Philly like small, you have to see everybody, and I get back, and then my friend Jarrett would be like, "Hey, I saw so and so who was like the ex-girlfriend. I saw her with that guy. Oh man!" And then get all mad because we were teenagers. We get so mad, like, "Yeah, your ex-girlfriend was with him. I saw the new guy." So it's funny. It kind of makes me think of all this stuff. But the best water ice in Philadelphia and on the whole East Coast, John's Water Ice for sure.
My first session, aside from the big seminar that was in Torrance, and I wrote about that, and a lot of people liked it because I put them, and they weren't there. They were either there or they weren't. And there was only like 60 to 70 people in the room. That's a lot, but there's a whole world out there that were curious what was going on, and I wrote about what it was like, and I put them in the way I wrote the paper. And I eventually, later in life, I read this to Hickson, and I think this is one of the things that maybe, showcased my passion in the beginning, because I was able to capture the excitement and the emotion that was there, and read that to him. And that really connects back to, driving from Los Angeles to San Diego with Carlos and Hickson. We're all in the car just driving down to have meetings, and he just, we're talking about all kinds of things, surf, nutrition, all kinds of things, just regular conversation. And then when it came time to jiu-jitsu, he kind of opened up and he said, "So Tony, I'm gonna start teaching you about jiu-jitsu now." And this is like in the car. It wasn't on the mats yet. And he just started to explain, and he's like, "I want to tell you all this so you can be more confident as a man." And I'm like in the back seat like a little kid, like, whatever you're gonna say, I'm all ears. And we start talking about, and he would talk about what's important in jiu-jitsu and some of his life experiences, and then some of would branch off into his like war stories of when he was like, what he was thinking and doing when he was a teenager, what he was thinking when he was doing when he was 18 years old, from 18 years old all the way up until this day. So, and it wasn't just that one conversation. It was always like this. There's always like these anecdotes of what you're thinking. So it's really, really interesting to me, just to get to know someone on a personal level. And so there's a lot of talks like this. And then it started to influence the way I was thinking about jiu-jitsu, and I'd write about it and do my little homework assignments to get my things done. And the first physical private I had with him, there were two, and they were both wearing like a t-shirt and jeans. One was in his private office where he was talking about base, and he was like, I said, "Yeah." He said, "Get up and show me what base looks like." And I did the base, and like a standing base. He's like, "No, you got nothing." And then he was just kind of working on my weight distribution and my balance, and he was hitting it from different angles, and I was like, and things started ticking. And then the next physical, like I can think is like my next time where I had my pro. That's before we started having the gi on, and before the mats arrived at his office, his home office, and then when the federation opened, and then the mats arrived to the office. Because then once they had the mats in the federation, that was like, me and him on the mat sometimes alone for 2+ hours, like learning techniques. Then he wanted to roll a little bit. He wanted to break the mats in. He wanted to come back again. The mats didn't like the mats. He wanted a new mat. So it was all like, that was golden time. But outside of that first office session, and then another one was, we had a meeting at a local academy to meet with the guys from San Diego and to come meet us. And we met, and then we're sitting on the mat afterwards. The guys left, and we started talking about how to capture all this, because it was a curriculum time. And I said, "Hickson, you're going to film this. This is like, you have to film it." He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to film it." And I knew that was a really cool thing, because he's never been filmed doing jiu-jitsu. And this was before the Budo video where he stopped by for This Week in BJJ, and he showed the UPA and all that self-defense. So I was like, okay, well, what's the Rickson Gracie teaching methodology? And then he looked at me and he said, "All right, Tony, teach me a move." So we're in our jeans, and we stood up, and I said, "Okay, I'll teach you the headlock with the punch." And I was a little nervous. I mean, I had been teaching jiu-jitsu for over 15 years. I had taught that hundreds of times. I had, at that point in my life, had taught school for elementary school, taught middle school. I had a degree. I had a secondary degree, a master's degree. I was like, I can teach this. And Rickson saw a flaw in what I was doing in the headlock with the punch. Maybe 2 flaws. Let's say there were 2. And then he showed me how he taught from there on. He did the headlock escape. And this, now I have it. Now I can teach a seminar. I can teach a lesson. And I can present information the way he does it. At that time, I didn't know his teaching methodology. I tried to teach the jiu-jitsu headlock escape exactly like Elio Gracie, exactly like how Rorion Gracie had taught us to teach it in the old instructors program. Here's the problem, here's the solution, without talking, and then do the move, and then I explain the move with limited words, cues, safety tips, mistakes, visible man, whatever the presentations were. And I think he liked that. I was I was doing the move, but the move itself was flawed, which was a bigger problem. Who cares if you can present a move? It's still flawed. And then he showcased the headlock with the escape, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. And then we just went on from there. And then he was like, then he kind of like took over, because now it was his cue. He started teaching, and that day he taught me headlock. And this was like my first it was almost like an introduction lesson. And he showed me the clinch, taught me the clinch the way he teaches it. Then we went to the mat, did the Americana, and mount maintenance, and then the headlock escape. So there were like 5 moves, just like an introduction to jiu-jitsu. 5 more moves or less, depending if you're doing an hour or 30 minutes. And I went home that day and I took out like the instructor's manual and I started writing about teaching pedagogies, and I had the different teaching pedagogies of how Elio Gracie taught how you could do different other methodologies to teach jiu-jitsu, and then I put the Hickson Gracie teaching methodology, which is unique. One of my favorite training sessions here has been all of them are like, because they're my friends. They're people that I respect, and I couldn't wait to see. And then I wanted to see how they developed. The guys that were at the seminar, hosting the seminars, and just who would show up. You never know who's going to show up. You have people that call you and say, "I'll be there." Sometimes they'll make it. It's like, that's all right. I'll see you. We'll see you next time, right? And there was the session in Philadelphia where it was all different black belts from 20 years ago or 15 years ago. Dunkin' Donuts is like the sponsor of all the news I saw on TV.
Yeah, that's not how I'd have my mace like this. This is where I get, because the guy was down there, and you could totally like cut through the mall. Everything's safe in the mall.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not. And then I had to make a run from that street to this block, and then crossing this street at night. This is where I have my mace, right like this. I saw, all the years I came down, I saw like 3 fights in front of Burger King. So we're here at 707 Chestnut Street. This is the original Maxercise, where everybody who was any good in jiu-jitsu out of Philadelphia all started here. The original one, we walked down the street, and all this was like big white, and it had a big 707, and we used to hang out here between classes in the morning, in the afternoon, and then make it for the 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, all the way up to like 9 o'clock at night. Hang out here, get salad and fruit over here. They always had like a weird tasting salad bar, and they put up this rail so we had to lean. But this is it. This was spent a lot of time here. Saw many things. Many things happen on this street. That's new, the Mexican place. Right now we're going to Noah Spear. His place is called Platoon Fitness. He's an old friend from Maxercise, and I guess we're going to see some old Maxercise guys here. That's the plan. But it's his birthday, so I don't know if he's going to be here. Happy birthday, Noah.
When I insist on doing it with my legs, yeah. Pretty hard. Does Hickson ever talk about it?
and connection. The heart of Jiu Jitsu. Which is mostly everything.
So we're in downtown Philadelphia, and this is all new. I never saw this, and it kind of reminds me of Santa Monica, especially even now with the weather. This is the best time to be in Philadelphia, in my opinion, is the fall, because you can roll around with a hoodie and jeans and sneakers or something like that, and it's like California. California is cold like this at night, so I'm very happy to be here right now. It's not going to be forever, but this is the time. And tonight we went to Noah Spears' place. It's called Platoon Fitness, and it was an open mat. It was Noah's birthday, so he wasn't there, but I would love to have seen him. And all the guys that were there were all black belts now, guys that we started the jiu-jitsu together. Some a little bit later, but we were all at the original spot in exercise, and this the friendship that continues, and the good questions that they had tonight, and they're very respectful of my knowledge, and they showed me some stuff, I showed them some stuff, and then we got to roll, and it just feels good because there's almost a nostalgia to it. It kind of brings you back, when you're laughing on the mats again. So it wasn't like super competitive or whatever, but it doesn't have to be. It was open mat. It was fun. So I really appreciated all the guys showing up tonight, and it would be great if Noah was there, but maybe next time.
Cupcaking. You know what cupcaking is? Cupcaking is like when you're in a social situation and you're on your phone like this, and then you got this big smile on your face.
Okay.
Because you're laughing at whatever's going on, but you're not paying attention to anything else. It's like you have a cupcake in your hand.
Okay.
All right.
Older people don't do that.
I know, but
We're more considerate.
Okay. Well, it's 10 o'clock. We're a little bit late on our start, but we're heading towards Ohio from Philadelphia to do a seminar with Master Pedro Sauer in the morning. So we got to be there at 10 o'clock. The seminar starts. We're starting tonight, 10 p.m. Crash somewhere along the way, get a hotel, and this is what you do when you search after knowledge. If someone's in town that's on the level, you go train with them, and Master Sauer is at the top.
Appreciate you guys coming here. Seminar is also you guys, so great questions, great problems. I understand that we are going to be working in some back positions, attacks and escapes, and how to maintain. But of course, now is open for you guys, so bring any subject, any problem, we can try to make it just easy. One thing is not, I want you to get hurt, so no matter what you do, just go slow, take your time, don't force it, use mechanic instead of using muscle. So if something's not working, instead of overpower each other, just relax and let it flow, let the jiu-jitsu come to you, don't try to force it. I want to say thank you all the guys that came here. Thank you to this guy, Tony, that met last year, helped a lot with the HISO launch for the Global Federation. Appreciate you coming here, listen. And anyway, let's go ahead and get started, Val, and we're going to have some good time from now on. So let's imagine we're a match tag somewhere over here. Let's go to Val. All right, my friend, work on it, please.
All right, guys, just get a little bit of space, please. Go through one more time. Big shoulder circles.
You want to rock yourself from here, then you want to intercept. Anytime you see somebody that intercept, you can put the arm up. If your goal is to always intercept, you can block. I can do this, out, and go. Then you come back. You just want to grab. Your opponent's going to escape. You're going to block, you're going to touch the ball. Again. Anyway, neck is something that anytime you guys train, you have to always look for the neck. Think about the neck. Okay, I'm going to go for the neck, but I see arms going everywhere here, so I'm going to try to put your hand inside of it. Anytime somebody's back, you connect your hips to the guy's hips, give a little energy to your opponent. You're going to use 3 moves in just once. You never put 1 move. You can always have a good mechanic to do. Get yourself to have to do good mechanics. It's priceless for the rest of your life. Sure. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys for coming here. I hope I got a chance to share some stuff with you guys. I'll say thank you for all the black belts. Appreciate it.
We
we just finished a seminar with Master Sauer and filling up the gas tank. Going to go back on the turnpike back to the Philadelphia area. Got like a 5-hour drive, and I'm dressed for California, and it's cold.
I had met Master Sauer in California and got to talk with him, and then through the Facebook, social media, emails, even on the telephone, we're talking back and forth. So someone that I always wanted to learn from, take a lesson from, or a seminar, and we had the opportunity to go from Pennsylvania to Ohio. He had a seminar there, and he taught a 3-hour seminar, and then afterwards he stuck around for 3 more hours to do belt testing. So it was in 2 parts. All the different black belts were there, very respected. Towards my knowledge, my history, really nice. His lesson was very, very good. He is a master as a professor, and of course his knowledge as a jiu-jitsu practitioner too it's top notch. He's a coral belt, 8th degree, and he has a way of explaining techniques that are like his choice of words, his vocabulary. He speaks well. He has a natural charisma about him. Maybe it's been developed, I don't know, but people like him, and his knowledge and how his philosophies and how he perceives jiu-jitsu and how close he sticks to like the ideals and philosophies of Elio Gracie, and then some of his how he can infuse knowledge from Hickson and all the different brothers. But he's someone that is the lifestyle that influences so many people in his association, and it was great to finally get his take on certain positions, and even the questions on the side, like, hey, how do you do this? And he was right there, and you felt his jiu-jitsu, and it was the real thing. It was like the real jiu-jitsu. It wasn't again physical attributes. It was the principles and his own methodology, because he has his own body type, and his flair, things that he does really well. So I was really into it, and then afterwards he did the testing, so I got to see a Pedro Sauer test or evaluation for white, blue, purple, brown, and a few of those brown belts that were testing that day got their black belts. So it was really cool. I was really focusing on the self-defense presentation, how the guys and the girls were going to do self-defense, and you could see that the Pedro Sauer Association had its own flair to to some of the stand-up aggression techniques, the self-defense, the Gracie family stand-up aggression self-defense techniques. And, a few of those techniques you could see variation. So I really was looking forward to seeing some of that, and which we did. So all around, if you're going to be in town with Pedro Sauer, don't miss it. He's the real thing.
This morning we're on our way to Helson Gracie, Bronx, New York. An old friend of mine is Mike Casey. I always never remember his last name. We're going to do a seminar there, and he's invited me up, respecting the numbers of 20 plus people. It's a very, very small school, so it's maxed out on space. But looking forward to seeing him and catching up. I also want to see like the comparison in techniques of what Helson Gracie used to teach us, and then the knowledge that's now through Hickson and some of the evolution of jiu-jitsu. But then also see what Helson has taught over the years, because it's been I haven't seen or saw Mike in maybe 15 years. I mean, you see him online and through the distance, but you haven't ridden on the mat with him in a long time. So that's something that I'm looking forward to. Getting messed up.
Like sweat, you're like the whole condensate. Everyone's here. I've got a unit bound Delio, please. I'll just say quickly, I'll turn this over real quick to Tony. For those of you that don't know, Tony is probably my oldest friends from training. I used to drive to Philadelphia to train. That was the closest spot to train. Exercise, 2.5 hours away. I think Tony was already a blue belt at that time. I think he was already a well-indoctrinated, one of those guys who just, it's blue belt. Big match, big deal. I was always very impressed with him, though I maybe never told him this. Maxercise with Steve Maxwell was full of just a bunch of animals. I mean, just hard-hitting, real hard training dudes, great jiu-jitsu, fantastic skills, fantastic technique. And Tony was a little guy, he was small back then, but his technique for me was always very impressive. Because he was dealing with, to me, the true essence of what jiu-jitsu was about. So I watched guys like him. I wasn't watching all big guys. I wasn't watching the Butchers or Rishnells going, wow, that guy's great. At 300 pounds, I'm not that impressed. But at 140, 150, when they're dealing with 300 pound guys, that's what I'm checking out. So for me, it was very impressive to watch a guy like this grow as a fellow. And then just years later, it's really a special treat for me to watch where he's gone. Now being a huge impetus in Hickson's new federation and taking like really the next generation, for me like the second generation of jiu-jitsu and see where it goes. And it's kind of cool to see my peers doing what they're doing now and the groundwork they're completing and then laying for the next group of people coming up. That's really cool for me to say. So I'm looking forward to this, probably more than you guys are. I'll leave it at that. I'll start over to Tony. Thanks so much, Tony.
Thank you very much for having me. Congratulations to have this keep going. You do jiu-jitsu this long and keep it in your life and pass it on to you.
And what we're doing is we're doing this. We're trapping the arm, we're bridging, and then we're rolling. And it's even in English. Hold, I trap the arm, I trap the foot down here. Another little secret is to kind of bend your knee a little bit. When you bend your knee this way, it kind of digs the heel in. Nice little tip. So from here, I'm going to bridge and roll, and I want you to put your hand down. I bridge, and I roll. There you go. Didn't work. So now, I'm trapped in the arm. I'm going to ask you to put your hand out at the right time. Don't do it now, it's too premature. So I'm here. And it worked. So here's what I did. You're getting a better angle, so when you stand at the base here, put my hand right here. Okay, that's maybe we'll talk about that. You can pinch your knees now if you want, if you don't, doesn't matter, but I'm going to do the elbow escape. It's good. Just think about this, guys. Don't turn to your side. I just showed you what happened when you turn to the side. The guy can pinch the knees and then you got to do the moves down there. Versus, I'm flat. 1, 2, 3.
I'm personally not a big fan of traveling by car to New York because it's such a big city. There's so much going on. There's so many cars, and then you get out of the car and you're walking around like Manhattan, and people are so many. I like to be at the beach. Everything's cool, everything's calm, and when you get to the city, everything's fast. People speak fast. You're bumping into people. You look at people real fast. You look and turn. I think you're making quick eye contact with people, and you just keep going. So I was nervous to, the energy that goes with traveling to New York and the Bronx or the Bronx, and then when we got there, it was very calm. There's a place to park, and then right when we put our gi on, we're in the academy. Everything is cool, and the owner is Mike, and he's another guy that would come to Maxercise on the weekends and come all the way from New York. He had the thick accent, so someone that knew me when I was a teenager, and then he said some really cool things about me after the seminar. But he wanted to see the comparison between Helson and Hickson and anything that I could bring to the table that day. And we did a great seminar. Like again, it was another 3-hour one, and all the guys were really nice, and they were saying, we're real New Yorkers. We're not like these guys from Manhattan that, from all over the world. We're the real thing. And it's really cool, aside from, when you get to the Jiu Jitsu Academy, everyone's equal. I really like the guys from the Bronx, and it was a pleasure to teach the guys that day. And even his son, they stuck around. Like after the seminar, I did like a couple semi-private lessons, and we just kept going. And again, it just gives me opportunity to. And again, at that time, I had already done many private lessons with other black belts in Delaware and some private lessons, even the ones in California. I have had time to practice this, but by the time I arrived to the Bronx, my workshop or my seminar was very, very polished, and I could start to experiment with different positions. And that was the first seminar where I wanted to teach the back take, and that was a big deal for me because it took me so long to apply it in application. Not back takes like the classic ways that you would see it done in BJJ or even the different branches of the Gracies, like how Hickson takes the back. And I figured out a couple ways to present it where I know, because when I teach it now, I do it like Hickson. I try to take my back, and then the guy tried to take my back, I knock the person off. And then the moment it switches, because I don't know this person, I never trained with him in my life, and now I'm in the position, I go, okay, try to stop me from taking your back. And when it works, it's like, you get the guy. And it's very powerful because all leverage and angle and weight distribution and connection. So when it works, it's magical. And I had taught it in a few private lessons, but I have never did it in a seminar when you have 20 different people looking at, okay, let's see what he's going to do. After I had just put the one student or anyone else on the mat, like saying, hey, how do you take the back? So they say I take the back like this, I take the back like this, I take the back like this. So usually like 3. Then I go, also in the BJJ community, also in Jiu Jitsu community, we take the back and I would show 3 or 4 variations. So basically I exhaust all the different variations that we know that are possible from taking the back from the guard. I say, here are all the methods. And everyone goes, yeah, that's about it. And it's kind of a cool thing because it gives it like an overall of the presentation.
This is Dante Santoro at Gracie Jiu Jitsu here in the Bronx, New York. The Valet Tudo back take I thought was amazing. It can be pulled off right now, and I'm going over it in my head right now. I can't wait to get on the mat tomorrow to do it.
And then I just challenge the guy, say, hey, man, try to take my back. And then real slow, I just keep knocking them down. And they can't take my back. For them to take my back, they have to use some type of speed, some type of strength, some type of physical attribute. Or they have to change the position. They got to go to the sweep, or they got to go to the choke, or they got to go to the arm lock. And then I just stop and I say, but I asked you to take my back, not put me in the sweep. So everyone starts to get the idea, like, okay, yeah, I understand. It's not about the second move, it's about the first move. How can you make the first move better? And that's, in essence, what really comes down to, like, improving your execution, where Hickson's, like, really trying to head in that direction. Like, try to do the first thing right, not to worry about the second thing and the third thing. I mean, it's really cool to know more knowledge in jiu-jitsu, but it's better if you can execute that first thing better than ever. And then if the person counters that if they can, that second move is going to be so much easier to put on. And you're not going to allow them many times, if you're executing right in positional dominance or transitional dominance or submission application, they're not going to be able to get to position number 2 because you're just so, they're going to head in, like, instead of going to the next position, it's like you're kind of leading into what you want. You're heading into a variation of position, what position 2 can be. And that's really interesting because that's usually based on some sense of panic, not some sense of knowledge that they're doing. Like, I know how to get out of this, and here's how I do it, and I do it everybody in the room. Them trying to get out of yours is some type of place of ignorance. They're a little bit confused. They're a little bit moving in ignorance, and anytime you can put a person in a position of ignorance and you're in a position of knowledge, that's martial arts 101, and that's jiu-jitsu 101. That's in the fundamental strategies of, how do I take this bigger, stronger person with more physical attributes and put them in a position where I'm better, where I'm more superior. And you're constantly working for this on the ground. So you do the ground fighting, you get so much more knowledgeable in the positions, and you're moving in positions of knowledge, and you're putting them in position of ignorance. And when you become a blue belt and a purple belt, it's like you're learning all these techniques, and then by a purple belt, you're putting these like games together, game A, game B, and you have this for the sport, and you're so involved. So your A game is your strategy of trying to put people in the things that you do best. your positions of knowledge, and then hopefully they're in positions where they're not knowledgeable from there. That's always an interesting dynamic, because that can be very successful. But then if that other person can take you out of your A game and then put you in your B and C game, now we can start to separate of how knowledgeable you are in overall in all the different positions, not just one or two. So that's always a good thing.
Let's check it out. Jiu Jitsu magazine didn't happen overnight. Oh man. Many photos. Second article. Good things. Very cool.
Stand up. You can't pass my guard. All you have to do is stop me from touching your ear. And my touching your ear means I just punched your face or I slapped your face. So when you're here, again, you can't stand up. You can't do a punch, although you would want to punch my face. That's a good thing. But I'm just touching your ear. Yes, they got you again. So you're trying to maintain a posture, you're really far away. If I touch your ear 9 times right there, if I keep touching, you're gonna be making noises. I can't get you. So what are you gonna do? You put your hands here, yeah? Come lower. Even when you put your head in my chest, I can still, you can't have that, that can't happen. Come lower, come lower. So then you wanna go back. Now how am I feeling the hips? If I put my hips up or not, what's your move to pass? Because I've done this a couple of times. And I watched the young guys do leg drags and modern stuff and get real fast. Say it already. It's hard to do something twice, right? When we played football when we were little kids, we beat the team once, but then they came back in the playoffs. It's like, oh man, these guys are going to be tougher. Because then the coach goes, well, it's tough to beat somebody twice. But sometimes it's easier to beat somebody twice.
Today we did the seminar at Komar Jiu Jitsu. Rich Komar is a friend of mine from 20 years ago, and he has a school near Atlantic City. And now we're at the post-pizza cheat day. One slice of pizza on a cheat day. This is the biggest slice I've ever seen in my life. Came out here as big as my arm. But the seminar was interesting to see the different levels of the guys. 2 black belts, a couple brown belts, purple, blue and white. And it was one of those things like there was a tournament, it wasn't big attendance, people knew that there was a tournament, there was a seminar, some people didn't know. But either way, it doesn't matter to me, it was really fun to teach. And I had a lot more time today, so we did 3 hours, and I spent a good hour and 10 minutes on stance work and base, weight distribution, how to close the distance, how to clinch and be connected to the person. And of course, throughout the whole seminar, we're teaching the principles of Jiu-Jitsu. And it was cool to answer some of their questions when the guys asked. I really liked that because now they're thinking. When we hit the mat, they knew what they wanted, and I tried to give a little bit more help to apply the Jiu-Jitsu principles and tell some fun stories and just demonstrate this. And it was pretty fun to listen to how Rich said to answer the question, well, what's little Tony going to teach? What's he going to teach? And he says, I don't know. He's going to teach the principles. And that's the truth. It's more than the techniques. It's not the modern. The one guy I said, show us the Brazilian necktie. The Brazilian necktie is a technique that I developed, and it's in the magazines, the Jiu Jitsu magazine. I was like, oh man, let's do that at the end. That's not really important. That's good, but it's like a golden leaf technique. It's like a trend. So that was my point. I wanted to show the good Jiu Jitsu that they already know, the principles, the core, the fundamentals. And then in the beginning of the seminar, Rich said, one of the students said, oh, you just take the seminar and you can show us the moves on Tuesday. And I smiled and I said, hey Rich, it doesn't work like that anymore. It's not about the moves. And he said, I know. So that's really cool. It's fun to be an instructor where you have to be at the seminar. You can't just learn it from someone else. You can't learn it from your professor that was at the seminar. You have to learn it from a direct. That's the difference. It's not just a move. We are heading to an academy called Keystone BJJ. It's in Bristol, Pennsylvania, and we're going to do a seminar with Bob Mattis, who's I guess his lineage is George Pataderas, Hicks on George Pataderas. A guy named Tattoo, and then he's a black belt under Tattoo. Let's go. And walk by everything. CrossFit, Jiu Jitsu, MMA, but the company's in São Paulo, so it's pretty good. The guy that owns a cool guy. He's a black belt in Jiu Jitsu. Awesome. Good start?
Yeah. Somebody line up.
Back and forth, and they're very relatable to Jiu Jitsu. I was always told, now you do the other side. This is more important, to learn how to get to here without stepping back. Then, if you got to touch my ear, go ahead. I have a natural structure. You go to my other ear, good. If your hand goes a little bit past my head, I say, okay, and I go to your back. So it's a little flow drill. Right now, this is how Hickson really problem solves. When he doesn't move, it's like, okay, do it. Let me feel it. Go ahead. Right. And then, yeah. Very good. That was a good choke. You did it really good. You're black. You go. Here's the deal. You got your hands in the back. You got the choke. I can feel it right now. But I'm a strong guy, and I go like this. Go. And then it was a moment where we're like, who's stronger? Yeah, it's a fight. That's what we don't want. Because what happens at that moment is you get tired, or you're going like, When I put my hand in the collar, I take the slack out and I find the sweet spot. Like I pull. Everyone's gi's a little bit different, but yeah, that's it. That's the sweet spot for me. It's not like here, it's down here, I'm touching the mat. I come on this side at like a better angle. Because then if the guy lifts the head, I'm in an angle for the armbar. Which is a lot of truth to that, plus my legs get longer if they were short. But, if you want to... It's called Keystone BJJ. I've been there many times with, even before it was at that location, just, heading to the school prior. Again, this is another friend of mine. He wasn't someone from exercise. It was just someone that Bob Mattis was a black belt, or got his black belt under Tattoo, who was a black belt under one professor from, the names escape me, it's like, I don't know, I forget the guy's name, he's based in Australia now, but his professor and lineage links to George Pataderas, and then George Pataderas is Hickson, so,
in the lineage, it's Hicks and Gracie. So that was like the first time I ever walked into a school, and it's like, our lineage is Hicks and Gracie. And that's always an interesting thing, because it's like, just because your lineage is a certain person, maybe you're going to get the philosophies, but maybe not get the techniques or the principles. And that's nothing to say anything bad against Bob, but I'm walking in and I'm saying, today we're going to do the whole deal with the warm up, and we're going to today present the principles, inspire you, and then also do this next objective, which was new. It's the first time I said publicly, I want to try to meet the objective of learning how to problem solve by seeing in these examples. And it was cold, but the group of students are very, very nice, and I really enjoyed that. The techniques. Again, it was another 3-hour thing, and I went longer because they're friends of mine, and we all went and had dinner afterwards. But always had a good time. I'd been there the month prior just to stop by. Bob was not there that day, but it was one of those situations where I'm at the school and I just they had some questions. At a black belt, they knew about me. Some of them saw me at a prior seminar, and they saw the pictures. The new students saw the pictures on the wall, and it was actually kind of funny because at that time the magazine came out, the Jiu Jitsu magazine, where I had 3 different articles in one magazine. So here's that guy from the magazine, and it was like, wow, that's funny. And they had the different magazines on the table. So they're like, oh, that's cool, show us that move in the magazine. And I go, oh, I'll show it afterwards, let me show you some other stuff too. And I did some Q&A, and then afterwards we rolled with everybody in the school that was there, like all the guys. They just went one after the other. So I really don't get to do that a lot, but that was a lot of fun, just to see if I could do it because of all the traveling involved. And it's difficult when you're not going to the same academy 4 or 5 days a week where you're getting in that cardio. So it was fun. I really enjoyed the seminar there, and before I go on to the next one. Sure. That night I secretly, and there's no coincidences in life. I have a student named Matt Herchek, and he the last time I was at that school doing a seminar was like 4 years ago, and he was promoted to purple belt. And we did the whole surprise. I think I gave the belt to my friend Bob, and I said, here, hold this to the end of the seminar, and he pulled it out of his gi and handed it to me. So we surprised Matt. And then at the end of the seminar the other night, it was the same thing. It was, let's all line up, and I did my conclusionary thoughts of how the seminar went. There were some things that we did, and then surprised Matt again, who was very, very surprised.
I'm Matt Herchek. I've been a Tony Pazensky student since 2006, maybe actually late 2005, not to be precise. Tonight at a seminar in Bristol Borough, I was a purple belt for 4 years. I had gotten promoted 4 years ago, September 2011, here, when Tony came back briefly, and he surprised me with a faixa maroon. I totally didn't expect it. I've known Jiu-Jitsu now for 10 years. I'm totally shocked still to this point in time. I really didn't even want to take my gi off, to be quite honest, because I still wanted to wear this. It's just like, as the end of the seminar, he gave me the belt, and it's like we had to get dressed because it's late at night. It's like almost 10:30 at this point in time, and it's so cool. I'm finally almost at the top of the mountain after 10 years of training. Thank you very much, Professor.
With Matt, he started all over again with me, and I wanted to give him an idea where some of the experiences that I learned, because I had met him when I was a brown belt already. And I had my brown belt for like 5 years, so I was already training for 10 years. I was just as much knowledge as a black belt. I just wasn't a black belt, and I wanted him to restart. Actually, it was probably the first guy I ever demoted. He came into the academy with a white belt with black stripes on him. I just said, take the belt off, and then handed the belt back, and there was no stripes on it. And he just looked at me, and I said, new beginnings. And he smiled. He still talks about it to this day. And then he'd go on and train and do seminars, and for me, moving to California for that second time, I left him as a blue belt, and it's up to him to train, and he always did. He always stuck to me, and he eventually, 4 years ago, he got promoted to purple, and now this time around, he's got the promotion to brown belt, and he was very emotional. It was a good belt for him. It's the right time, and now he's got to break that in. So that was a great night for the seminar, and then also to surprise Matt once again. One of my favorite private lessons that I've ever had with Rickson was him looking at all my stand-up aggression moves, and for like over a 2-hour period, we went through all the different techniques, and it was just great for me to feel how much different, because I had learned the moves from Grandmaster Elio, his sons, and really good instructors of jiu-jitsu, and had practiced for over a 20-year period these stand-up progression moves, how to get out of a choke standing, how to throw the guy over my head, how to get out of the lapel grab. And Rickson just made everything so much better. He would find little things in the technique that I missed, missing some type of invisible power, the connection, having more leverage, and over time, if we use the core program for the ground positions or the stand-up aggression techniques or the real fight where you're closing the distance and learning how to fight on the ground with strikes, the different training methodologies, which is the stand-up aggression, the Vale Tudo training, which is your fighting, and then the sport aspect where you're playing for positions. But they're just overall the three. When you look at the ground moves, you can start to see that Rickson likes to teach the base concept and then start adding more and more information. More or less like you should learn from other jiu-jitsu instructors, but now you're going to get the hands-on, and Rickson's going to want to test you and say, okay, let's see if you got it. And if you got it, great. If you don't, he'll make sure that you don't. You make sure that you know that you don't have it in a good way, because it's always best to see how well you perform under stress and when it's being challenged.
sit. No more.